Virtuoso Pianist in 60 Exercises by Hanon is the most famous book of piano exercises. But why am I playing the Chopin Etude? Because later in this piano tutorial, we explore how Hanon exercises can prepare you for more advanced repertoire like this, so let's take a closer look. Welcome to the Baker Piano Studio, providing piano tutorials illustrating how you could take your playing up to the next level. Okay, so the purpose of these Hanon piano exercises is to guide piano students at the elementary stage up to the intermediate level. However, many advanced pianists will also use them as warm-up exercises. And because these exercises use all 5 fingers in quick repetitions, they're often referred to as 5-finger exercises. And in this piano tutorial, we look at the first exercise to illustrate how you can use it to your advantage. And I've included a progress bar on your screen below showing the categories covered, so you can scroll ahead or back to locate a particular topic. Let's get a visual overview of the first Hanon exercise. This simple 8-note pattern is repeated identically as you ascend every step up the keyboard. So if you have the first 8-note round, you have all the others. This simple pattern can be memorized immediately. When returning down the keyboard, the pattern is inverted and repeated identically. Playing one complete cycle gives you the feeling of going somewhere and then returning, and ensuring that you play each round at least 28 times. During the first year of study, I guide students in reading music notation, learning short, easy pieces, and developing good hand positions and practice habits. Then after about a year, I introduce Hanon exercises into their practice routine. And at that point, students can put these exercises into action with relative ease. The benefits gained are increased speed, flexibility, and articulation. Now, I want to take a closer look at the first exercise. Hanon 5-finger exercises use only one set position as they move across the keyboard. This makes them easy to use right away. This is different from scales that require finger crossings. Thumb under, hand over thumb, or octave leaps, as with arpeggios. And unlike scales and arpeggios, the 5th finger is used with every single 8-note round. I am passionate about teaching how to read music notation and sight reading. However, since these simple 8-note rounds can be memorized instantly, focus your eyes not on the page, but on your hands for a purpose, to watch like a hawk over every movement of your fingers. This is important because students are sometimes unaware that their fingers are just not articulating. So use your eyes to monitor your hand movements and take care to listen for evenness of tone and rhythm. Practicing with different and contrasting rhythmic patterns can improve the articulation between the fingers. In this original 19th century edition I picked up in a used bookstore in Paris, we can read that Hanon did not suggest any variations in rhythm or key signature. But in this later 1923 edition by Frère, there are 22 variations in rhythm offered. Let's just take 3 examples. We can practice in rhythmic patterns of long, short, long, short, long. And the longer held notes will get a weighted accent. Or we could flip that in reverse and have short, long, short, long, short, long. We can also turn the middle 3 notes into triplets, and for cleanest articulation, make those triplets staccato and very distinct. And when playing the regular rhythmically even 8-note rounds, it's helpful to lightly accent the outer notes. This creates a more incisive beat and gives the inner notes a cleaner alignment. Hanon exercises will get your fingers moving at a much faster speed, allowing you to play at least 4 times more notes per beat than regular repertoire pieces at the elementary stage. In the early stages, Music is slow-moving because we're learning to translate the music symbols on the page to their correct place on the keyboard. Our reading skills are developed in one part of our brain, but a different part of the mind controls our hands, which can adapt to the piano at a faster rate. With daily practice, your reading ability will gradually catch up with your hands, but your fingers can already move very quickly, so there's every good reason to build up your hand technique now. Let's talk tempo. What tempo to choose? First, simply start at a tempo where you can play rather securely and evenly. Perhaps a slower tempo of 50 beats on the metronome is taken at 2 beats per round. After that is secure. Gradually, week by week, move the tempo up to 60 beats and then later to 70 and to 80 and so forth. It's a good idea to use a metronome in the beginning until a consistent tempo can be internalized. Just as the railroad tracks will keep a train steady to its destination, the metronome will keep your fingers on a rhythmic track to accelerate your progress at the keyboard. When practiced consistently over several weeks, you will find that your fingers are moving with more speed. And what is the fastest you should go? This is not a competition, so only go as fast as your fingers can play with evenness and clean articulation. For over 30 years, I've also taught Hanon exercises in contrary motion. Other terms you may hear used are mirror imaging, or the academic term symmetrical inversion. This is a long-established practice technique whereby the hands can reinforce each other's strengths, and it's often used to master difficult passages in repertoire. By the way, if you're finding this video interesting, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you. Flexibility in the wrists and the hands is essential to achieve advanced technique, and using contrary motion is a really good way to begin developing this necessary skill. So let's take a closer look. Now we're playing with wrist circles to cultivate flexibility. That allows us to play with greater ease and control. And when we play wrist circles, starting with the thumb, the wrist position is level, and as we play to the second and third fingers, we're already pivoting the wrist outward. And we move into the keyboard with the fourth and fifth fingers, arriving at a slightly higher position. The fifth fingers are actually standing up. And that slightly higher position allows the hand to easily curve over the middle fingers in an arc back down to the thumb. This motion benefits the fourth and fifth fingers, giving them much more control and strength, because the natural center of gravity weight descending from the arms across the bridge of the hand and down through the fingers into the keyboard. Can I play these rounds in a very rigid fixed position? Yes, but for how long? The outer fingers have less control, and the rigidity in the wrist and the forearms will cause painful inflammation. Instead, pivoting outward and inward, the fourth and fifth fingers have much better strength and control. And with no stress. There's no need to push into the keyboard, because that would cause, again, tension in the wrists and the forearms, which is the opposite of what we want. And we don't need to lift the elbows outward when we're going outward towards the edge of the hand. That would cause us to raise the shoulder, and that will eventually cause pain in the shoulder. It's simply a useless motion. This is mostly in the wrists and the forearms. And we want to keep the wrists as limber and loose as an old rag doll. There should not be any tension anywhere. And you can even practice these wrist circles first in pantomime a few times. Very loose and easy, and then roll into motion. And we're off and running. And when we play in parallel motion using these wrist circles, it's as if the wrists are taking turns, moving to the center in a playful game. This video began with the C major etude of Chopin, which has the same under-over motion. Hanon, the Chopin etude. I can think of a better example to illustrate wrist circles. I'll play contrary motion out and back just one octave and then modulate into A flat major. Without these circular motions, playing the Chopin Etude in A-flat major and thousands of other pieces would be virtually impossible. So we can see the practical value of developing flexibility to achieve advanced technique. Don't overthink or intellectualize this. These are merely simple circular motions. And since everyone's hand and wrist proportions are unique to themselves, play with these easy circular motions over several days until you find the movement that feels just right for your physical build. The flexibility that we're developing through this Hanon exercise helps us to avoid injury caused by unnecessary tension. Playing with rigidly tense wrists is a leading cause of carpal tunnel syndrome for many people working at a computer all day long, as well as for pianists. Trying to play the piano with a rigid wrist is like trying to push a car with the brakes on, and in both cases, you won't get very far. We are using this Hanon exercise to learn several skills, and taking the skill of flexibility into all your repertoire pieces is probably the most valuable. Adding variety into Hanon exercises can accelerate your development. For instance, you could take the first Hanon exercise for a week, but add to it contrary motion or try alternative rhythms as well. Or you could practice 3 different Hanon exercises in succession each day to challenge your ability to adapt quickly. These Hanon exercises are like cookie cutters that you can pick and choose which to use at your discretion. After mastering Hanon exercises in C major, some pianists will practice them in other key signatures. And in the comments section below, you can share the ways that you prefer to use these exercises. And to avoid the monotony of constantly listening to octave intervals, for auditory variety, you could play these 5-finger exercises in the interval of a sixth, or in the interval of a tenth. And as a bonus tip for variety, you have the option of playing simple triads in one hand as an accompaniment while playing the Hanon exercises written with the other hand. These Hanon exercises, for the sake of variety, can be played with accompaniment. One hand can play as written, the other in triads. And of course, you have a lot of choices for chords if you want to play 7th chords. But otherwise, just keep it simple and straightforward. How frequently should we practice these Hanon exercises, and for how many minutes each day? Perhaps less than 10 minutes of Hanon practiced each day is all you need to gain the benefits. And when you're done with them, put them aside and move on to your next project at the piano. It's not how long we practice these exercises per day, but the daily repetition that gets results. Playing them once every other Saturday won't do very much, so if you choose to use them, incorporate them into your daily practice. Big question, do I insist that every student practice Hanon exercises? No, not necessarily. They're used only when they serve to benefit a particular student at a certain point in their development and then for a limited duration. There are many other aspects to hand technique beyond Hanon 5-finger exercises, but when used intelligently at the transitional stage between elementary up to intermediate, they can offer practical value. Feel free to subscribe to this channel, and in the link above, you can watch the tutorial How to Avoid the 7 Big Mistakes Made by Beginner Pianists. Thank you for sharing your time with me, and we'll meet again in the next video.